Hey everyone, welcome back to 996. The Howl. Bill Armstrong continues to extend and sign his existing players instead of trading them like pretty much half the league is going to do today and tomorrow. Friday is the trade deadline day. Utah plays Thursday night and Friday night. They got a huge back-to-back against Detroit and Chicago. For me, my expectation is 3 out of 4 points. Hopefully they can do it. But for now in this video, we're concentrating on the 3 contracts Utah has signed to 3 of their free agents that were going to be unrestricted free agents. Vejmelka, Alex Kerfoot, and Ian Cole. We'll start with the big one, which is Vejmelka, the goaltender for the Utah Hockey Club. This is pretty much the biggest contract Utah is going to give out other than Logan Cooley in the next even 2 to 3 seasons. So they finally lock him up 5 years, $4.75 million. It's about a $2 million raise for the 28-year-old goaltender. He's been with the organization now for pretty much 4 full seasons. 5 years to me, I was expecting 3 years by $4.5 million. So I got the money pretty much right. But the years, it's 5. For me, that is a signal to me that I think they're going to choose Vejmelka over Connor Ingram. I don't think they're going to go with both of them long term. I think you had to choose one of them to go long term, and Vejmelka has had a great season, much better than Ingram, and he's having a career year. So for Bill Armstrong and the organization, the most important time is now and not your past. Vejmelka in the past, part of that rebuild in Arizona, I continue to say, he is one of the best rebuild goaltenders ever to exist in the league. He played so much. He lost so much. He never complained. He always had a smile on his face, and he was always ready to get back into the net. I mean, 32, like this year, brutal year, 32 regulation losses. And Vejmelka has never had a good defense until this season. So I'm sure the organization did its job, did its analysis where, hey, we put a pretty good defense in front of him. This guy's a great goalie. He's worth about $5 million. So let's sign him to that contract. I would say also that it's a cheap enough contract where you can go out and still acquire like a 1A, 1B type goalie situation, or even put Vejmelka as your backup and get a starter for the next, in 2 seasons from now. Like $4 million will probably be your backup goaltender salary due to the exponential increase in the cap for the next 2-3 seasons. So it gives them some flexibility. It's not an anchor of a contract, even though 5 years is long. But Vejmelka has improved in almost every category from last season to this season. His quality starts sits at .543. What quality starts is the amount of games you've started where your save percentage is higher than league average. For this season, league average save percentage is .895. He's sitting at a .910. So 54% of Vejmelka's starts, he's saving above league average, which is great. I think this team needs consistently league average goaltending, and to be a little bit better, they need a little bit more better in the goaltending department. Obviously, you can't wish for everything. You can't have top 5 save percentage, top 5 power play, top 5 PK. For Utah, I think between, number 16 to number 10th in the league in save percentage is enough for Utah. For his quality starts percentage, it's increased, like I said, but last season it was at .424. Like I said, this season it's at .543. So a huge jump. If you're below 50%, that's really bad. If you're above 60%, that's really good. So Vejmelka is right in the middle of that range at .543. For me, for Vejmelka this season, I think he's really mentally prepared for each and every game. And we saw it in those 2 games right before Four Nations break where they suffer a blowout loss to the Carolina Hurricanes 7-3. And then the next day, it was both afternoon games, and then Connor Ingram got the start the next day against Washington. And Ingram goes down with an injury early in the first period, and Vejmelka has to come in relief after suffering just a blowout loss. And he secures a net and gets Utah the big 2 points heading into the Four Nations break. So I think he's just mentally prepared. The question marks for me is Vejmelka the guy to take us to the promised land? And I think this season proves he can. I mean, without those massive injuries to the defensive core this season, goaltending wasn't really an issue. We needed it to step up, which it sort of didn't, which is why Utah finds itself on the bubble. I feel like if the goaltending stayed the same and was thriving, we'd be in a better position in the playoffs. But in front of great defense, I think Vejmelka can take us there. And then the next question is, can he thrive in the playoff environment, which is a huge question mark. It's pretty much impossible to predict, which is why I like the flexibility of it's not too expensive where you could, if he can't really thrive in the playoffs, I mean, the fact that we even make the playoffs is a huge accomplishment, but let's say next year we're in the playoffs. If he doesn't thrive, it's cheap enough and we have enough cap room and the cap is increasing enough where you could help him out with a partner goalie or even just get a true number one goalie and have Vejmelka as your backup. Having a backup making this amount of money is not that bad. Like, no one's going to scoff at that there. Next, we go to Alex Kerfoot, 30 years old. He signs a 1-year contract, $3 million. It's a $500,000 cut to his salary, which I'm surprised about. I thought Kerfoot would probably demand the same amount of money, or let's say $4 million. But after looking at his offensive numbers, maybe that's where the price cut it comes into play. But for me, I'm not looking at Kerfoot for offense. This guy touches so many areas of the ice. He literally can play anywhere in your lineup. You know, I know Utah fans love the word versatility, but such a huge versatile player. He could play on your number one center position if someone is injured, like he did when Logan Cooley was injured. He could play on your fourth line with Stenlin and Bukestad. He could play on your second line. Now that Carcone is injured day to day, he's playing with Hayden and Gunther. He could play everywhere. PP, he could play on the PK. He averages 2.5 minutes per game shorthanded. He's 50.4% on the faceoff dot, which is the highest he's seen since the 2018-2019 season with the Avalanche. And he's playing the second highest amount of time on ice in his career. So he touches a lot of areas. He brings that intangible style of hockey that is kind of like incalculable for money-wise. It's hard to put a price on that. For me, I'm surprised Kerfoot only took a 1 year. I guess they're just kicking the can down the road. Even though Kerfoot wasn't traded last season, he did have to move along with the whole team. So it kind of was sort of a trade for pretty much the whole team because they're moving from Arizona to Utah. So maybe they're just like, hey, I'm tired of moving. Can I just sign a 1-year contract? I'll take $500,000 pay cut just to have some stability for a year. And then next year we'll come back to the table and ink a longer term contract, or maybe the team decides to move away from Kerfoot. And then Ian Cole signs a contract, again, a 1-year contract. The cap hit is $2.8 million, but there are some bonuses to that contract. The bonuses are tied to the amount of games he plays. So next season, if he plays 40 games, he gets $50,000 bonus. If he plays 50 games, he gets $50,000 bonus again on top of that 40 game. And then if he plays 65 games, he gets a $100,000 bonus. So altogether, if he plays 65 or 66 games, he gets an extra $200,000. He's throwing egg on my face because in the Oli Mata video, I said Mata would replace Cole moving forward, but they signed him to a 1-year contract. You never get upset at 1-year contracts. So like, if anyone is upset at these, I don't know what to tell you. For me, Ian Cole, this signing, what did we experience this year? A lot of injuries. So you can't just walk away from players and move on. You kind of need some injury buffer players. And the fact that he's got game played bonus items, to me, that screams to me like, hey, we probably won't play you that much next season due to, we signed Olimata. We expect Lamoureux, Kesselring, and Simishev to really battle for spots in the defensive pairs. But if you do play more than we expect you to, we'll give you some extra money. For Ian Cole, he brings leadership. He's one of the leaders in the room. He's 36 years old, and he plays 20 minutes on ice per game, which is the most in his career. This guy's 36 years old. I think he's played 14 seasons, and he's playing literally the most amount of hockey he's ever played at his oldest age. Obviously, he's won 2 Stanley Cups with Ole Mata and the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's had 11 playoff appearances in those 14 seasons. He's had the most shot blocks since the 2016-2017 season in his career. That's 9 years ago. So this guy, even though he's old, he's playing on the PK, averaging 2.5 minutes per game like Kerfoot. He's blocking the most amount of shots. He's on the ice so much. Obviously, that average time on ice is going to decrease now that everyone's healthy on the back end, but signing Mata, signing Cole, signing Kerfoot, these are players where if there are injuries, this is the best depth you can ask for. And just it's an insurance policy that if certain players aren't ready, like if Simishev isn't ready and Lamoureux isn't ready, and you walked away from Cole, what are you going to do now? You got to force a young player to play. Well, now you have Cole in your back pocket. He could come in and play. It's also a low enough contract where, let's say at training camp, Simishev is amazing. If Lamoureux is amazing, okay, now who gets to get pushed out? Well, Ian Cole, you could come to him and say, hey, our young players are really stepping up. We trust them. We think they'll thrive playing consistent minutes in the NHL. We'll move you to a cup contending team, a playoff team, and we'll do whatever we can to make you happy. Like, it's a small enough contract where you can do that as well. Or like I said, it's most likely just an injury buffer. He's there to teach the young guys, bring that leadership, that playoff style experience to the locker room. So great stuff by Bill Armstrong. Nothing really that scares me. The 5 years for Vejmelka, like I said, I was expecting 3 years, but he kept it below that $5 million threshold where you can play around with it, give you some flexibility. Obviously, I'll have to process, take some time to really get myself in the mindset of Vejmelka is now the goaltender for the future for the organization, and it probably isn't Connor Ingram. So I'll have to, I was always Team Ingram. Now that the team is signaling, hey, we're going to stick with Vejmelka. Maybe there's a Connor Ingram trade this summer. Maybe they keep this duo for next season, because next season is Connor Ingram's last year on his contract. And then I think they might decide from there, what will they do to help Vejmelka? Do they get a 1A, or do they make Vejmelka the starter and get a cheaper backup goalie? You still have Hurable or Michael Rabel as your top goaltender prospect, but he's a ways away. He still needs to come to Tucson and have some seasons in the American Hockey League. You don't want to rush him to the NHL either. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.